Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Monday, December 15th, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives. As we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words in the upper left-hand corner that say Start Here, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 21 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows that contain the audio of people just like you being stepped through a worksheet for a problem they had, and if you choose to listen to them even repeatedly, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you to help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. You can also reach out to us. You can send me an email. It's tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, or you can email Jeannie at jeanie@whyagain.org. That's whyagain.org. And if we get a question or comment from you, we'll address it on the internet show, and then as time allows, send you notification about what day and time that occurred. You will then be able to go back and listen through the archives for your feedback or input. And we greatly appreciate whenever anybody does that, because it makes it much, much easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The other way to join us is if you're available live from 11 to noon Central Time, most weekdays. You can go to zoom.us and say you want to join a meeting and enter meeting ID number 853-2357-4173. That's the meeting ID for the first hour. And we greatly appreciate whenever anybody does that, because it makes it infinitely easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The intention we have with this work is to be a service, and that is just much, much easier to do when we've gotten feedback, letting us know how these things are landing for you. So, in the absence of somebody jumping up with a comment or a question, I will return to reading from Krishnamurti. And the book is titled Commentaries on Living, Series 2. And the next section that I will read is titled Boredom. And the book reads, It had stopped raining, the roads were clean, and the dust had been washed from the trees. The earth was refreshed, and the frogs were loud in the pond. They were big, and their throats were swollen with pleasure. The grass was sparkling with tiny drops of water, and there was peace in the land after the heavy downpour. The cattle were soaking wet, but during the rain, they never took shelter, and now they were contentedly grazing. Some boys were playing in the little stream that the rain had made by the roadside. They were naked, and it was good to see their shining bodies and their bright eyes. They were having the time of their life. How happy they were. Nothing else mattered, and they smiled out of joy as one said something to them, though they didn't understand a word. The sun was coming out, and the shadows were deep. How necessary it is for the mind to purge itself of all thought, to be constantly empty, not made empty, but simply empty, to die to all thought, to all of yesterday's memories, and to the coming hour. It is simple to die, and it is hard to continue, for continuity is effort to be or not to be. Effort is desire, and desire can die only when the mind ceases to acquire. How simple it is to just live. But it is not stagnation. There is great happiness in not wanting something, in not wanting to go somewhere. When the mind purges itself of all thought, only then is there a silence of creation. The mind is not tranquil as long as it is traveling in order to arrive. For the mind to arrive is to succeed, and success is ever the same, whether at the beginning or at the end. There is no purgation of the mind if it is weaving the pattern of its own becoming. So that's the intro to the talk. She said she had always been active in one way or another, either with her children or in social affairs or in sports. But behind this activity, there was always boredom, pressing and constant. She was bored with the routine of life, with pleasure, pain, flattery, and everything else. Boredom was like a cloud that hung over her life for as long as she could remember. She had tried to escape from it, but every new interest soon became a further boredom, a deadly weariness. She had read a great deal and had the usual turmoils of family life, but through it all there was this weary boredom. It had nothing to do with her health, for she was very well. Why do you think you get bored? Is it the outcome of some frustration, of some fundamental desire which has been thwarted? The woman replied, well, not especially. There have been some superficial obstructions, but they've never bothered me, or when they have, I've met them fairly intelligently and have never been stumped by them. I don't think my trouble is frustration, for I have always been able to get what I want. I haven't cried for the moon and have been sensible in my demands, but there has nevertheless been the sense of boredom with everything, with my family and my work. And Krishnamurti asks, so what do you mean by boredom? Do you mean dissatisfaction? Is it that nothing has given you complete satisfaction? She replies, it isn't quite that. I'm as dissatisfied as any normal person, but I have been able to reconcile myself to the inevitable dissatisfactions. All right, then what are you interested in? Is there any deep interest in your life? She replied, no, not especially. And if I had a deep interest, I would never be bored. I'm naturally an enthusiastic person, I assure you. And if I had an interest, I wouldn't easily let it go. I have had many intermittent interests, but they've all led to the end. In the end, they've all led to this cloud of boredom. So Krishnamurti asks, well, what do you mean by real interest? Why is there this change from interest to boredom? What does interest mean? You are interested in that which pleases you, gratifies you, are you not? Is not interest a process of acquisitiveness, acquisition? You would not be interested in anything if you did not get something out of it, would you? There is sustained interest as long as you are acquiring. Acquisition interest is interest in a way, is it not? You've tried to gain satisfaction as long as you're acquiring anything from anyone. And when you have thoroughly used it, naturally you get bored with it. Every acquisition is a form of boredom and weariness. We want a change of toys. As soon as we lose interest in one, we turn to another. And there's always a new toy to turn to. We turn to something in order to acquire. There is acquisition in pleasure, acquisition in knowledge, acquisition in fame, power, and efficiency, and in having a family, and so on. When there is nothing further to acquire, whether it's in one's religion, in one's savior, we lose interest and turn to another. So he's saying that everything about interest has to do with acquiring something. And as soon as we acquire it, we lose interest in it. Because after I've acquired it, I don't need to keep acquiring it. This acquisitive or acquiring and being out to accumulate things, it's called the expansion of thought, and we call that progress. And then she asks, is interest always acquisition? And Krishnamurti replies, actually, are you interested in anything which doesn't give you something, whether it's play or a game or conversation, a book or a person? If painting doesn't give you something, you pass it by. If a person doesn't stimulate or disturb you in some way, if there's no pleasure or pain in the particular relationship, you lose interest. You get bored. Haven't you noticed this? She replies, well, yes, but I've never before looked at it this way. Krishnamurti replies, you wouldn't have come here if you didn't want something. In this case, you want to be freed of boredom. As I cannot give you that freedom, you will get bored again. However, if we can together understand this process of acquiring, of interest, of boredom, then perhaps there will be freedom. Freedom cannot be acquired. If you acquire it, you will soon be bored with it. Doesn't acquisition dull the mind? Now, I have to just stop. I really don't like interrupting Guy Finley, but here he just said, doesn't acquisition dull the mind? And my mind flashed to the research where they hooked people up to scans so they could see the blood level activity and electrical activity in the brain, and they asked them a question, like someone would walk in the room and they'd put their hand in a bag or their pocket and they'd say, what might I have in my pocket? And the person's brain level activity would be much, much higher. It would jump up in activity as they're trying to figure out what might be in the person's pocket. And if the person is moving it around and there's no sound of metal clanging, then they rule out coins and maybe keys and maybe a fob, and they just keep going. But as soon as the person pulls their hand out of the pocket, opens up and says, well, here it is, it's, the microfiber for wiping my glasses clean, the brain activity in the person who was guessing drops way down. Way down. And there's your brain activity. When you're not acquiring something, when you're trying to acquire something, thought is really, really active. As soon as you acquire it, the thought starts to drop off, and it's not too long before you're going to be bored with it. So, you wouldn't have come here, he tells the woman, if you didn't want something. In this case, you want to be free of boredom. As I can't give you that freedom, you're going to get bored again. However, if we could understand the process of acquisition, process that ties it to interest and boredom, then perhaps there will just be freedom. Freedom cannot be acquired because freedom, if you acquire it, is just like anything else, you'll soon be bored with it. Acquisition dulls the mind. The brain activity comes way down as soon as it acquires something. As soon as you acquire it, you lose interest. In trying to possess it, you are alert and interested. And once you acquire it, boredom sets in. You may want to possess more, but the pursuit of more is only a movement towards boredom, because that cycle can only repeat. You try various forms of acquisition, and as long as there is the effort to acquire, there's interest, and as soon as there's an end to the acquisition, boredom sets in. Isn't this what's happening? The woman replies, well, I suppose it is, but I haven't grasped the full significance of it. Krishnamurti says that will come presently. Let's consider possessions. Possessions make the mind weary. Acquisition, whether of knowledge or property or virtue, makes for insensitivity. The nature of the mind is to acquire and absorb, is it not? Or rather, the pattern it has created for itself is one of gathering in. And in that very activity, the mind is preparing its own weariness and boredom. Interest, curiosity, is the beginning of acquisition, which soon becomes boredom, as the urge to be free from boredom is yet another form of possession. Give me a solution to my boredom. I just want to acquire something else. I see that I have a problem because as soon as I acquire something, the next phase is boredom. So I really don't like boredom, so let me acquire something else. So the mind goes from boredom to interest to boredom again and again until it is utterly weary. And these successive waves of interest and weariness are regarded as our existence. The woman asks, but how is one to be free from acquiring without further acquisition? Krishnamurti responds, only by allowing the truth of the whole process of acquisition to be experienced, and not by trying to be non-acquisitive or detached. If you want to reach the state of non-acquisition, that's another state you're trying to acquire. And that will itself, spending all your energy trying to be detached, that will become wearisome. The difficulty, Krishnamurti writes, if one may use that word, lies not in the verbal understanding of what has been said, but in the experiencing of the false as the false. To see the truth in the false is the beginning of wisdom. The difficulty is for the mind to be still. The mind is always worried. It's always after something, either acquiring or denying, searching and finding. The mind is never still. It is in continuous movement. The past, overshadowing the present, makes its own future. It is a movement in time, and there is hardly ever an interval between the thoughts. One thought follows another without pause. The mind is ever making itself sharp, and so wearing itself out. If a pencil is being sharpened all the time, soon there'll be nothing left. Similarly, the mind uses itself constantly and is exhausted. The mind is always afraid of coming to an end. But living is ending day to day. Living is dying to all acquisition, to memories, to experiences, to the past. How can there be living if there is experience? Experience is knowledge, memory. And is memory the state of experiencing? In the state of experiencing, is there memory as the experiencer? So Michael Ryce talks about this because thought is always either of the future or of the past. It's not in the present moment. And he says, trying to figure things out at that conscious logical level is the number one false solution of what he calls the non-being mind. So Krishnamurti says, the purgation of the mind is living, is creation. So you don't get stuck in your head and your thoughts about a thing. You stay, as Michael Ryce might call it, in the present moment, with total, perfect, conscious, active, present love. And that's not thought. That's not thinking loving thoughts about a person. That's just being fully awake and aware in the moment. And not having thoughts about being awake and aware. Or if I have thoughts about being awake and aware, I just let them go. I chuckle at them. I don't take them seriously. So Krishnamurti writes, the purgation of the mind is living. Having an empty, wide open mind, being in the questioning state, is living. That's the process of creation. Beauty is in experiencing, not in experience. For experience is ever of the past, and the past is not the experiencing. The past is not the living. Only through the purgation of the heart, purge it, right? Empty it, let it be wide open. Only then is tranquility of the heart. When the mind is wide open, only then is the heart tranquil. Michael likes to quote from one of the stories with Yeshua and the apostles, and at the Garden of Gethsemane, and the guards come, and Peter pulls out his sword and hacks off the guard's ear. And so in that, the definition given for Satan is thinking from the past, going back and forth in your thought about your experience. It's being in the mind of man. It's being identifying with the ego and its thoughts. So Krishnamurti tries to be very clear about the fact that you can't stop your mind, because the part of you that thinks you want to go stop your mind, is thoughts. What you can do with it is step back and observe at deeper and deeper levels. And this brings me to the idea of not that. So whether you want to look at this as a meditation, or you just want to look at this as a philosophical discussion, from the Eastern tradition, there's the awareness that whoever says they know doesn't know. And whoever says they don't know is at the threshold of learning. Now there's some potential to learn. It doesn't instantly teach me everything the moment that I recognize that I don't know everything. And yet I have the capacity to learn when I admit ignorance. So here's an exercise that if somebody asks you, and there was a very deep discussion happening on the second hour of the internet show from Friday, and there's all kinds of words and definitions and spirit and breath and inner dwelling, and it was just on and back and forth. It was intense. It's like camping. It was intense. And so what came to me on listening to that is the exercise that says, not that. And that's all. That's just those two words over and over again. Is it this? Not that. Is it a sense of that? No. Is it this type of energy? Not that. Is it that? No, it's not that. It's not. How do you know? Because those things are words. Those things are symbols of symbols. Those are ideas. And therefore, they will be different for everyone that tries to have an experience of it. And your thoughts about it are not the thing. And the words you express about it are not the thing. And so when somebody says, is it this? The answer should be, no, not that. It's not what you can point to. It's not what you can talk about. It's not words you can say. It's an experience. It's a flow of life. It's like what Guy Finley says, you can't stop your mind from churning at that mechanical level of mind that it always does. And yet, the mind will stop as it recognizes, and only as it recognizes, that it is the source of its pain, not the solution to its pain. Because, as Einstein would point out, you cannot solve a problem at the level of mind that created the problem. So, if there are any comments or questions, I'm going to move into reading the section titled Discipline. from Krishnamurti's book, Commentaries on Living, Series 2. And it's written, "We had driven through heavy traffic, and presently we turned off the main road into a sheltered lane. Leaving the car, we followed a path that wove through palm trees and along a field of green and ripening rice. How lovely was that long, curving rice field, bordered by the tall palms. It was a cool evening, and a breeze was stirring among the trees with their heavy foliage. Unexpectedly, round a bend, there was a lake. It was a long, narrow, and deep lake. On both sides of it, there were palms that stood so close together as to be almost impenetrable. The breeze was playing with the water, and there was murmuring along the shore. Some boys were bathing, unashamed and free, naked, their bodies glistening and beautiful, well-formed, slender, and supple. They would swim out into the middle of the lake, then come back and start again. The path led on past a village, and on the way back, the full moon made the deep shadows. The boys had gone. The moonlight was upon the waters, and the palms were like white columns in the shadowy dark. He had come from some distance, and he was eager to find out about how to subdue the mind. He said he had deliberately withdrawn from the world and was living very simply with some relatives, devoting his time to the overcoming of the mind. He had practiced a certain discipline for a number of years, but his mind was still not under control. It was always ready to wander off like an animal on a leash. He had starved himself, but that didn't help. He had experimented with his diet, and that helped a little, but there was never any peace. His mind was forever throwing up images, conjuring up past scenes, sensations, and incidents, or it would think of how it would be quiet tomorrow. But tomorrow never came, and the whole process became quite nightmarish. On very rare occasions, the mind was quiet, but the quietness soon became a memory, a thing of the past. What is overcome must be conquered again and again. Suppression is a form of overcoming, as are substitution and sublimation. To desire and want to conflict is to give birth to further conflict. Why do you want to conquer? Why do you want to calm the mind? The man replies, I've always been interested in religious matters. I've studied various religions, and they all say that to know God, the mind must be still. Ever since I can remember, I've always wanted to find God, the pervading beauty of the world, the beauty of the rice field, the dirty village. I had a very promising career. I'd been abroad with all that kind of thing that comes with that. But one morning I just walked out to find that stillness. I heard what you said about it the other day, and so I have come to talk to you about it. Krishnamurti replies, to find God, you try to subdue the mind. But is calmness of mind a way to God? Is calmness the coin which will open the gates of heaven? You want to buy your way to God, to truth, or what name you will call it. Can you buy the eternal through virtue, through renunciation, through mortification? We think that if we do certain things, if we practice virtue or pursue chastity or withdraw from the world, that we shall be able to measure the measureless. So it's just a bargain, isn't it? Your virtue is just a means to an end in that case. The man replies, but discipline is necessary to curb the mind, otherwise there is no peace. I have just not disciplined it sufficiently. It's just my fault. I just need to get better at disciplining my mind. Krishnamurti replies, discipline is a means to an end, and yet that end is known, and you cannot know the end. Truth is the unknown. It cannot be known. If it is known, it is not truth. If you can measure the immeasurable, then it is not. Our measurement is the Word, and the Word is not the real thing. Discipline is the means, but the means and the end are not two dissimilar things. Results like the tool. You can't hate your way into a loving relationship. Surely the end and the means are one. There is no goal apart.
Are you guys? Oh, there you're back. You're back. What happened to you, Dr. Tim? You disappeared for a while. Oh, you're on. I can't hear you. You've got your audio off.
How's it now?
Yes, can hear you perfectly.
Well, so have you been here all alone or chatting with someone?
No, we've been all sitting here in silence. Just all of a sudden you dropped off the feed, and then for some reason I was a co-host, and I got to let Susan Bingham back in. She was kicked out. Well, let's give it time to chit-chat then, because I have something I'd like to chat about. So it's a little bit about grief, and so much is coming up about my desire to be met, my desire to be felt, my desire to be seen, and it fits into the talks that are happening here. And when you're longing for something and it doesn't come, and wanting to be met at a place that maybe others can't meet you there, and then the grief that goes along with that.
So is there a specific person that you want to have feel you and meet you and...
Yeah, and can't. And probably if I look at other areas, I could say it to about many people. Probably my previous husband, but somebody else who's currently in my life wanting to be met at a place that I'm not being met. Yeah. So that just came to light, being able to give language around that, and looking for safety, mutuality, Yeah.
Looking for safety? Mm-hmm. What's not safe? How are you feeling unsafe?
Well, I think that's an old wiring. Walked in the world not feeling safe my whole life. And it's unraveling now that I am safe, and my belief is that I'm not, and the actuality is I am. So I'm meeting those two parts of myself. So I guess in essence I'm meeting myself.
Well, and the whole thing I was just reading from Krishnamurti about how if I'm going to go acquire anything, I've just set myself up for boredom and disappointment.
Very fitting, the talk today. And journaling as you're speaking.
And so how is that relating, or what kind of little light bulbs are going off for you in terms of waking up to what you're trying to acquire that in the first place you don't need or you've already got.
Mm-hmm. So my thinking mind is always setting me up for disappointment. And I've lived there my whole life, living in past or future.
Isn't that what we're just reading here every person does? Right? Every person's thinking mind is distancing him or her from the actuality of life in the moment.
Well, that's interesting. I think I accidentally pushed a button on the screen so the picture moves as I move.
Yep.
Okay, I turned that on. Okay.
So if you let that in, now, but when you said the phrase, it sounded like it was like, look at this bad thing I'm doing or this wrong thing I'm doing that's creating this problem, and yet it's just a description of the process.
Yeah, exactly. And finally, I have the realization of what's going on. I didn't have that awareness before, and it's landing of what's really going on. Even though I intellectually heard this many times, and being in presence and not living in thought, and what Krishnamurti really landed last week, this piece when he said thought is a sensation.
Yeah.
That landed deeply, and said, okay, so sitting with that and this self-judgment and this other thing I want to say, I felt what I felt, and I feel what I feel, which is true for me. So I would be self-blame and beat myself up because I would have these big feelings of, not being met, etc. But it just is what it is, and it is the process till it isn't. And so I come to the present moment and can rest there.
So what does not being met mean to you?
Well, imagine, showing up in your own presence and wanting someone else. If it's I am love, I know, as Michael says, but let's say wanting to share that experience with somebody. And then that's not, the capacity is not being able to meet you there, whether it's in emotional maturity.
Okay, and so then you're wanting something that doesn't come.
Yes.
And that's always going to lead to the frustration and boredom we were just reading.
Yeah.
And so the question then, if you were, Krishnamurti were sitting here, the best I could do to be a substitute for him would be to start asking you questions.
Yeah.
Questions like, why do you want that? What do you think is going to happen once you get it?
Well, I think it goes back to wounding of attachment, even though I'm sitting here right now being able to be conscious, active, and present, and yet the human part of me is replicating patterns that I didn't get as a child, where it felt empty.
Okay, and that's thoughts, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And then what will come of that? What are your thoughts about what you will gain if you can change that?
Yeah, be known. This comes in.
Okay, and if you're known, what happens?
I can rest.
Because if you're not known, you can't rest?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? I could write you a doctor's note right now that says it's okay for you to rest right now. I would happy. I can text it and then email it and put it in land mail, all written out.
It's a nervous system response of being always scanning and watching and trying to fit in, and where do I matter, all of that, which is It's all
Okay.
relating. I get that.
Okay, so it's safety that you believe you're lacking.
Yeah, rest is safety, I guess. Safety is rest, yes. If I'm safe, I can rest.
And since you're not safe, you can't rest.
Mm-hmm.
Please get this. Your words, what you just said, it's so powerful. Because you hold the mindset that says you're not safe, you can't rest. And it's ironclad logic.
Yeah.
But if you change your mindset in that same thought system, it's all good. Now, of course, there's more going on than just that thought system, but right there, just to see that much would be a boon for you. It would be a big win for you.
Yeah, so I can intellectually see it, but physiology and the nervous system, it doesn't reside there yet. But I can see, you can tell me that, and I can, with all the work I've done since, for 2011.
Well, and it's not, it isn't so much the telling, it's you feeling that's going to make the change. And
how can I feel it if I don't feel safe?
Well, when you don't believe you're safe, right? And so it's not that you don't feel safe. It doesn't begin with the feeling. It begins with the thoughts. You pour your mind energy into thought enough, you start to feel the sensation. And I don't want you to believe that without testing it. You'll have a chance to test that every time you do a worksheet. Mm-hmm. And nothing in the outside world changes, but you shift, the thoughts and the feelings and the canceling and the breathing, and then all of a sudden, I'm way over here. I started feeling this, now I'm feeling this, and nothing out there changed. Mm-hmm. Oh, so I don't want to get stuck in the thoughts. I want to just go into the feeling, and and understand that if I don't keep adding thoughts to it, I literally laughed out loud several times on Friday trying to listen to that.
I bet you did. It was pretty comical.
Oh my God! What a round and a round.
I know.
And then somebody tries to speak truth to power. It was quite the interesting show.
That's amazing. See, that's what happens when you get to be on the outside of the looking glass. You can see a lot clearly than someone's inside it.
And so, not that. Try that, not that exercise, right? Look at the evidence that your mind uses to tell you you're not safe, and just look at it and say, oh, not that. That's not my true nature. That can't be the truth. Why? Because bottom line observation, such and such says, if it's negative, it's false. Yeah. Just keep looking at what your mind wants to serve up, and understand that whatever it serves up is a hollow, shallow, many steps removed from life creation, right? Or illusion. Mm-hmm. And that frees you to calm yourself, turn the focus inside, and just sit with the energy or the emotion without trying to do anything with it. Mm. Watching the thoughts as they flow through without trying to push them away or grab onto them. And with the breath moving, Michael's really hitting the gong on the breath these days. It's life, it's intelligence, it's what was meant instead of the word spirit. Don't go there. We don't want to open up that can of worms. But it's the felt sense that will move through you in 90 seconds. Yeah. That energy, unless you're pushing against it or trying to grab onto it, which is similar to adding energy to it, like banging on a gong. Yeah. So you can combine the two, because what is, I have this tool, it's called the conscious logical mind, or the ego. It's just a tool. It's not a bad thing. I don't want to attack it. I don't want to label it. I don't want to beat it up. I just want to use it appropriately. Yeah, exactly. And in this case, what's its best use? To just watch all of the goofiness that it has been participating in, and to let it watch how its efforts to relieve my pain are the very thing that is creating and maintaining my pain.
Yeah.
I love the line that was one of these spiritual teachers was talking to somebody, and the person was saying, I have birth trauma, and I have this and that, and I have, and the other person, the trainer for whatever this was good-natured and, smiled and said, yes, absolutely, we understand that, yes, and listened to the whole thing. And of course, the person who's talking about this is in their 40s or 50s. And then finally, the facilitator said, okay, now what you want to tell me is that you're feeling what you're feeling today because this happened. Yes, I had a serious birth trauma. Yes, you had. Now, let me just share this perspective with you. You did have that trauma at birth. It was a real thing. It did happen to you, and you're not being born right now. And just that level of observation, that playful, that questioning is what, it's really the only, long-term key that's going to provide the kind of resolution we're hoping for.
I feel, I don't know if this is accurate, but, whatever happens in the trauma, so we use that analogy of the birth trauma, so many times I feel like I go back to collect the memory and write the memory, and R-I-G-H-T, write the memory, to bring it back into the truth. And so this safety piece, whatever that is, I can feel it moving it in my body right here. It's very old. And, I just got all this awareness this morning, so and thank you for reflecting what you are. So you're right that that memory's done. Whatever contributed, it could be a whole bunch of traumas that contributed to that lack of safety or feeling unsafe. And yet I know that to be true, that I am safe, but yet I don't feel it. So yeah, then I get to sit with that, and like you said, allow it to process, just be a witness.
Well, and be willing to explore it, right? Like in any given moment, if you're having the conclusion in your head that says I'm not safe, then you can look at that set of conclusions and know it's false, and then breathe and soften and turn the focus inside and just start observing the sensations that either are arising by pouring the mind energy into that thought, or that had you start to question with thought in the first place. It's just sitting with the sensation and observing that all your thoughts about the sensation are not the sensation. Not that, not... So you just sit there with the not that going. Oh, here's a thought. Yeah, not that. Oh, here's a thought. Just take any line from Friday's show. Let somebody speak their sentence or 2 or 3 sentence long paragraph, and then just say, not that. Not that, not, because what we're looking for is not the words about a thing or a description about the thing. What we're looking for is actually this life energy trying to animate the body and look through us. And so all the stuff that we do with the mind that's so clever and intelligent and shows how smart we are, it keeps us trapped. So you might try the not that exercise.
I am going to put that in my repertoire. Thank you. I'm going to put that in my repertoire for sure.
All right. Well, thanks for taking us to the end of our show or time or whatever. Please try to remember, everyone, that you come from love. You're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love. Everything else is false. And oddly enough, every single time in my life that things did not go the way I thought they should, by the time it was over, they always went far better than I ever